Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk about recruitment in sales to start with, okay? The first thing that I want to make clear is this. What is the goal of recruitment? The goal of recruitment is simple, is to acquire an asset. And the way I see it, a new person joining your company is like buying a piece of land in real estate. When you buy a piece of land in real estate, even though you just acquire an asset, it's not necessarily a profitable asset from the start. Do you guys follow me? Because for the land to become profitable to you guys, you need to build something on that land. The land alone is not going to pay you money every single month unless you create a building on the land, unless you build a house on the land, and then you rent it to other people. When it comes to recruitment, the mentality that we have is exactly the same. Because I think that that's where people go wrong. They expect that if they hire A players are going to join your company and they're going to be phenomenal from the start, but that's not how it works. Because even though you just acquire an asset, you still have to work on the asset and you got to build something on it. Does that make sense to everybody, by the way? So that's the goal of recruitment, guys. Now, what I wanna dive into today is how do we acquire A players within our organization? Because that should be the goal of everybody. You don't want to have B players, you don't want to have C players. As long as you surround yourself with those people, they're just holding your company back. And if you truly want to get to the stage where you start pulling 10 millions a year or 20 or 30 like we're doing right now, you need to surround yourself with A players. And if you want to surround yourself with A players, you need to have very strict rules when it comes to recruitment. And that's what I want to share with all of you today, guys. For us, we follow 7 rules of recruitment in sales that I'm going to share with you today. The first one is very simple. The way we see it, if somebody has no experience whatsoever in sales, but they have the right attitude, and they have the right desire to be successful, and they have a point to prove, that is much more important than somebody coming in with experience. Why? Because when people come with previous sales experience, they also come with a fixed mindset and a fixed mentality. You cannot mold them. Because they're like, man, I've been working in sales for the last 5 years. I already know how to sell. The reality is that most people don't have a fucking clue on how to sell. Because most companies don't provide sales training. Most companies, they still believe that providing product knowledge is the same as providing sales training. I know that. My father is worth $100 million, and he does real estate and he does car dealership. He's the worst sales trainer on planet Earth. So I've seen it. I've seen it. Right? The sales training of my father is, watch me, if you don't get it in 2 minutes, you're a fucking loser. And that's not how you train people, right? So if you hire people with no experience, that's a desirable outcome, as long as they have the right attitude. So that's rule number 1 for me. Rule number 2, guys, and I'm not going to lie to anybody here, if you take something away from my speech today, I want you to take this one away. Never, ever, ever stop recruiting when it comes to sales. We have done an analysis with all the agencies and the owners that we work with in Australia, and the number 1 difference between the top performing agencies that are consistently smashing it, consistently pulling results, is the following. The top performing agencies, they always recruit. The worst agencies, they only recruit when they need them. And let me explain why that's a mistake, right? I call this the cardinal rule, by the way. So if you want to write this down, the cardinal rule of recruitment in sales is never, ever, 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 ever stop recruiting, especially when you feel that you should stop. You need to go against your instincts. And the reason being, guys, is simple. Why? Because if you stop recruiting, your salespeople will own you. You're not going to be the owner of the business any longer, because your salespeople are going to start to control you. Why? Because they know that you need sales. They do realize that. They know that you need sales. And even though they may not pull in the greatest results, even though they may be complacent, they know that you don't have a recruitment pipeline that has been filled, and therefore you cannot get rid of them. You need to rely on them to provide sales, and they're going to own you. As a consequence, you're going to become very desperate, and you're going to start making the wrong decisions. That's the reason number 1. The reason number 2, guys, is because there is always a job for a talent. What I say to the people that I coach in Australia, sometimes they come to me and they say, Patrick, I don't have the money to hire this talent right now. And my response is, go to the fucking bank and get a loan and hire the person anyway. Because a talent can change the whole entire dynamic of your business. There is nothing more powerful. There is nothing more powerful than a new person joining your business and beating all your senior people that have been around for a very long period of time. Because when you have salespeople that have been there for a long period of time, do you know what they do? They lie to you. They don't do it maliciously, but they just convince themselves with several excuses, and they keep telling you these excuses until you start believing them. They tell you, you know why we're not doing sales? Because the market is saturated, man. The market is saturated. It's impossible to make sales in Germany as much as we used to. The market is just too saturated. You know why we're not doing sales? The leads quality has gone down. The leads are not the same as they used to be. That's why the sales volume has decreased. Oh, you know why we're not doing sales? Because the competition is better than us. Oh, you know why we're not doing sales? Because we have a terrible review online. That's why we're not doing sales. And they tell you, and you start believing it. Until you hire a young kid that doesn't know any of this bullshit. And the young kid joins your business, picks up the phone, and crashes everybody else in your office. And all of a sudden, shuts down all the excuses that all the other people are creating. There is nothing more powerful. There is nothing that ignites sales more than a new person that doesn't know anything coming into your business and crashing everybody else. But to allow yourself to find those people, you can never stop recruiting. It's as simple as that. The next one, guys, if somebody quits, you are ready. If somebody quits, you are ready. Especially because the mindset, you got to reverse engineer the way you think. Some people, some of you right now, you may only have one salesperson. And that's the most dangerous situation to be in. So when you only have one or two salespeople, you don't believe that you should always recruit anyway. Because you're like, why should I? I only have one fucking guy. What's the point of, sorry, I shouldn't swear that much. But what's the point of keep recruiting, right? Well, but then if that salesperson quits, you're going to be desperate. Right? Because you need salespeople. So if that person goes, what do? You hire somebody else very quickly. And when you hire somebody very quickly, what is usually the outcome of that? Good or bad? Terrible, right? So that's the next reason. The next one, guys, it's easier to give birth than bringing people back from the dead. And let me explain this one. Sometimes we have salespeople. They start working with us. They're very phenomenal at the beginning. They do a very good job. But then for some reason, they just stop. Has anybody experienced this before, by the way? Raise your hand if you experienced this, okay? They just stop. You try everything. You coach them. You support them. You go the extra mile. But they never come back. But you don't give up on these people simply because you have seen glimpses of talent in the past. And therefore, you live with the hope that in the future, they're going to be that person that they used to be in the past. So you waste months and months and months on these people. They're draining, by the way, because they require a lot of your energy. And in the end, they're going to quit anyway. And sometimes we just forget how easy it is to hire somebody new that doesn't know anything. And in 2 weeks, you can get the new person at the same level of the other person that you've been wasting time on for the last 6 months. Does that make sense to everybody, by the way? And the last one, guys, consistent recruitment is the antidote for complacency. It's as simple as that. If right now in your office, you are finding that your sales team is too stagnant, it's because the message that you're giving to your people is that they're not replaceable. Now, let me explain this. I don't go to our salespeople every single day and be like, hey, just remember that you are replaceable. I don't do that. And don't do that either. Otherwise, you don't create a good work environment. But if you constantly recruit, you're giving that the message indirectly without saying anything. They know. So they're like, either I do sales here, either I keep high standards, otherwise I know that there is recruitment flowing through the gates, and at some point I'm going to be replaced. I hope that this rule makes sense to everybody, so never stop recruiting. Rule number 2. Rule number 3, be picky, don't be desperate ever. Brian Tracy, there is a book called Hiring and Firing. I love that book. It's this big. It will take you 2 hours to read it. Is the tempo okay, by the way? Translators, all good? Oh, God damn it. I thought I was doing well. Okay. Be picky, don't be desperate. Brian Tracy always said that you need to hire very slow and fire very fast. It's easy to say. It's easy to say. And you're like, but Patrick, what if I need somebody urgently? How do I hire very slow if I need somebody urgently? Very simple. Never stop recruiting. Because if you are always recruiting, you're never going to put yourself in that situation. Rule number 4 is the rule of 3. I also learned this from Brian Tracy. Whenever we hire a new salesperson in our organization, that person goes through 3 people with the interview process. Okay? They get interviewed from 3 different people. And we only hire the person if there is congruency across those 3 people. If there is one person that disagrees, we don't hire that person. Why? Tim Kennedy told me a long time ago that if it's too easy to get in, it's too easy to get out. And sometimes when we are desperate and when we need somebody, we hire people too quickly. And when we hire people too quickly, we send a message. Our company hires everybody, and therefore they're going to quit easily. The next point is always do some interviews yourself. I see a lot of business owners, they lose touch with reality, and they get to the point where they delegate everything. Tariq suggested me a book a couple of months ago, and I read it. Sam Walton, Made in America, phenomenal book, by the way. One lesson that you learn from Sam Walton, his number 1 hobby was to go to the stores and see what happened in the stores. When Sam Walton was on his deathbed and was about to die, his son asked him, "Dad, what will make you happy right now?" And Sam Walton said, "I would like to speak to a sales guy in the local store about how sales are going at the moment." Does that make sense? Right? So never distance yourself from reality. And that's a mistake that a lot of business owners make. Because we're like, oh, now we make the money. Now I'm in charge. I'm too cool. I don't need to do that shit anymore. Wrong. Because sometimes, just by doing 2 interviews with yourself, you notice problems that nobody else can see. Rule number 6, don't only analyze your ads, also analyze the commonalities among your top performers. Let me explain this, because I know that all of you guys, I believe, or at least 95% of you run social media agencies. Most of you do employers branding. So when it comes to analyzing your ads, I'm not going to stand here and teach you anything because you're better than me. But one game changer for us, we picked our top performers at Community Collective, and we asked ourselves, what do these people have in common? Is there anything that these people have in common that we can then utilize to create better marketing messages and to create better ads? Sometimes we make assumptions, but when you actually study, the results are quite phenomenal. What we found is quite crazy. We found that 67% of our top performers come from very small villages. 67%. So not many of them come from the big cities. Why? Because people that come from small villages are raised better. They're raised with better values. They don't have instant gratification as much as we have it in the big cities. And they value connections and relationships more. Does that make sense? What we also found is that 87% of our top performers, they come from construction and hospitality. 87%. That's quite crazy. And the reason why they come from these industries is because these used to be dead-end jobs with no career opportunities, and therefore they decided to quit. We also found that 75% of our top performers went to uni, but they dropped out in the very first year. Once you have those informations, then you can attract more of those people. So don't only analyze your ads. If you have enough salespeople in your company right now, sit down and analyze what it is that these people have in common so you can also create better ads. That's my piece of advice. Number 7, a point to prove is the ultimate goal. I was speaking to somebody at dinner the other day, and he asked me, Patrick, what do you want to see in a new hire? What are you looking for? I'm looking for a very simple thing. I'm looking for somebody that has a point to prove. That's it. I'm looking for somebody that has a point to prove. My favorite people are the following. My favorite people are the ones that want to retire their mom. My favorite people are the ones that come from poverty. My favorite people are the ones that come from small towns, from small realities, and they never experience anything big, because I was one of them. My favorite people are the ones that come from rich parents, but not spoiled kids. The ones that come from rich parents and have been raised very well. The ones that have been raised very strictly, and maybe they have a successful father that they want to impress. My favorite people are the ones that wasted a lot of time previously in their own jobs, and therefore they are in urgency. They want to rush. Does that make sense to everyone? A point to prove is what you're looking for in sales. Why? Because people that have a point to prove, they have a bigger why. It's as simple as that. If somebody comes from poverty, if somebody wants to look after their family, if somebody has a point to prove, they don't give a shit about rejections. They don't care if they have to make 500 calls in a day. They don't care if they have to work until 8 p.m. at night. They don't care if they have to work 6 or 7 days a week. They do it anyway. They do it anyway. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I need some engaging back, otherwise I'm not sure, right? I tell you a little bit about Braden's story over there. Braden, can you raise your hand one more time so everybody can see you? When I was training Braden in the first 6 months, I was pushing Braden every single night until 10 p.m. every day. And I got Braden in my house to live with me, and if he didn't hit the sales numbers that he had to hit, we didn't serve him dinner at night. I'm serious. It was like being in a boot camp. It was like being in the army. If you find people like that have a point to prove like he did, because he wanted to prove a point to his mom and retire his mom, he wanted to make his father proud, and he was willing to work to levels that other people are not willing to work at. Also, next year, Braden is going to be a millionaire, while many other people, they're just sitting on the sidelines and watch. That's it. I'm going to move on. Now, we know, good? I'm trying my best here. It's very difficult to speak this low. So we know the 7 rules of recruitment. But the next question that we got to ask ourselves is this: how do we retain people? Because I want to be honest with all of you guys. Hiring A players is very easy. Write this down. Hiring A players, it's very easy. A child can do it. Hiring A players, all you need, as long as you have good marketing, as long as you have good ads, as long as you have a good interview process, you're gonna be able to hire A players. Simple. The key though is this: how do you retain A players? How do you retain them? And let me ask you one question. Have you ever experienced this? You manage to hire an A player, they start, but they quit within a month, or they quit within 2 months. What you found is that you cannot retain these very, very talented people. Has anybody been there before or not? I don't know if anybody has had this problem, right? If that's what's happening to you, that you hire A players, that you hire your dream candidate, but they quit right away, what's missing is very simple. What's missing is alignment. And I want you to write it down. Alignment is the only thing that you need to understand to retain phenomenal salespeople. When you understand alignment, your salespeople are not going to go anywhere. Because let me explain. The recruitment process is like being in a relationship, right? It's like being in a relationship. When you are in a relationship, there are stages. First, there is the dating stage, okay, which is the interview process when you do recruitment. And when, maybe not you guys, but some people, when they date, they don't just date one person. They date multiple people. And they're like, you know what? I don't want to take anything seriously right now. I'm going to date a lot of people because I want to understand who's the best candidate. And then once I've dated enough people, I'm going to find the one that I'm going to spend my life with. Some people have that mentality. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's the reality. So in interviews, it's the same. When they interview with you, they're not just interviewing with you. They're interviewing with many other companies out there. And then you get to the second stage, which is when you enter into the serious relationship. Like in the dating, right? You get to a point where you see somebody 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and you get to the point where you're like, you know what? We should take our relationship to the next level. Let's get serious. And in recruitment, that's when you give the job offer. You're like, now we're going to commit and we're going to have a relationship. And then there is phase number 3, which is when you move in and you live together. Which in recruitment is when they start officially the job. That's the first week, that's the first month, when they move into your building. I know many friends of mine that they used to believe that they were in love. And they said to me, you know what, Patrick? This is the partner of my life, I'm certain. And then they moved in together in a house. And after 2 weeks, they were like, I'm actually not in love at all. Because this is not the person that I thought I was dating. This person is completely different. Because when you date somebody and you just go to the restaurant or you just go to the movies, it's easy to put on a facade, is it not? It's easy to only show your best side. It's easy to only show your best clothes. It's easy to have the car very clean just because you know that you have a date that night. But when you live together, they see your dirty laundry. When you live together, they see who you truly are. And if there is a discrepancy between who they thought you were and who you actually are, guess what happened to the relationship? The relationship ends right there and then. Your recruitment is exactly the same. If you want to retain A players, you need to keep your promises. And, you know, during the recruitment process, you make many promises. This is just an example here, by the way. But through your marketing messages, through your social media page, through your organic content, through your interview process, you say to people, directly or indirectly, things like this. You say, in this company, we have a professional image. You say, in this company, we pride ourselves because we value discipline. You say, in this company, we're extremely organized. How many companies out there, they say, we pride ourselves for our attention to details? Many? Right? It's like when people send you a resume. You know the resume summary? I'm a go-getter. I work extremely hard. I'm very motivated, and I pride myself because I have attention to details. It's a bunch of fucking bullshit. People just write it, right? And companies do exactly the same. It's true. Companies do the same. Maybe you say, you know, our company is extremely motivated. These are the goals that we have. This is the vision. We're going to expand internationally. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But then they start, and this is what they see. They see the people are wearing dirty suits. They see the people are coming into the office a little bit late and there are no repercussions. And they see the people leave early in the afternoon. They see that the office is messy, that the attention to details that you were promoting is actually missing. Right? There are boxes hanging out. There are coffee cups on the desk. They're like, oh, this doesn't make a lot of sense. They see that the business owner that was saying that is very motivated, every single day is leaving the office to play golf at 2 p.m. And they see that there is a discrepancy. There is a discrepancy. There is a discrepancy between what you say and what you do. And when there is a discrepancy between what you say and what you do, this is what's going to happen, by the way. People are going to have doubts. And when people have doubts, that's what's going to happen. The A players are going to quit because the A players respect themselves too much. And they only want to work with people that also respect themselves. And people that say something but do the opposite don't respect themselves. Can we agree on that one, by the way? Right? So the only people that you're going to retain in that situation are who? The B players that are going to put minimal effort. Or maybe the C players. The people that are like, you know what? I can't find many jobs anyway, so I might even stay here. And that's what alignment is. So that was the first part here of my presentation. So I hope that we are clear. I hope that we are clear about the rules of recruitment. I hope that we are clear about the cardinal rule of recruitment, never stop recruiting. And again, I hope that we are clear about the most important rule of recruitment, which is alignment. Hiring people, it's easy. Retaining people and getting the best out of people is not easy at all. So what I always say to everybody in Australia is this. If you write something on your website, be very careful. Because if you write it, you got to do it. If you say something on your social media, be very careful. Because if you say it, you got to do it. If you say that these are your company values, don't write too many. You know, some people have like 17 company values. And they're like commitment, respect, vision, and blah, blah, blah. Don't write too many. Write what you're confident about. Because A players, they pay attention to things like that. B players, they don't even look at the website. They don't even look at the social media. They don't give a shit. They just want a job. But people that value themselves a lot, they don't want a job. They want an experience, they want an opportunity, and they want to find something that can potentially change their life. And they're going to pay attention to how much we as business owners pay attention to details. Does that make sense to everybody? Can I move on? Can I move on? Okay, great. So the next part that I want to talk about, guys, is this. Okay, now we know recruitment. I want to talk about how do you train people correctly. And as far as the training part, I'm not going to dwell about training too much today, simply because my belief is this. If you hire the right people, If you hire A players and you promote the right people and you put the right people in leadership positions, training people to do sales is very easy. Do we agree on that one, by the way? But if you hire the wrong people and if you have the wrong leaders, then training people to do sales is not easy at all. Does that make sense? So I don't want to dwell on this too much, okay? I'm going to talk about a 3-step process. So how can you train people correctly to do sales? Step 1 is onboarding, okay? And I was here in Dubai last time, and I know that you guys talk about onboarding a lot when it comes to your clients and the importance of onboarding your clients correctly. Well, the same is with people working in your sales team. Onboarding, in my opinion, is so important. The way we structure onboarding, we structure in 2 different phases. We have a remote phase for onboarding, and then we have the on-site phase for onboarding. This is what we say to everybody that we hire. Whenever we hire somebody, we onboard them on our sales platform, okay? On our sales platform where they have to watch 20 videos before they even come in, and they need to pass the quizzes after each video, and they need to take notes about every single video. And then we send them our sales pitch as well. Okay, so if you hire cold callers, I believe, we send them the sales pitch and we tell them, hey, Jimmy, congratulations for the job. Just so as you know, watching the videos and learning the sales pitch are conditions of employment. If you don't do those 2 things, employment is not going to start. Usually we give them a few days and then they come in for the on-site onboarding day in the office. I love doing those 2 things, onboarding them in the video platform and giving them the pitch, because this is another opportunity that we have to filter the wrong people out. Because what you find is that some people lie. And you ask them, did you watch the videos? And they're like, yes, I did. Some people are just stupid. What can you do? Like, you can't change that. They don't even think that we can see whether they watch the videos or not, and they lie. Yes, I watched them. So at least you know that you are about to hire a liar, and because they didn't watch the video, you just don't hire them in the first place. Some people say, yes, I started the sales pitch, and then they come in for the physical onboarding day, and then you find out that they didn't study anything. So we make those 2 things the condition of employment. When they come for the day, we go through 3 main things, okay? We keep it very simple. We don't want to overwhelm people too much. Obviously, we sign the contract and so on and so forth. But as far as the training, we dwell a lot on the company history, the company mission, and the opportunities, because you want to be able to sell people on the opportunities that you offer from day one. There needs to be a dream. A players don't want to work for anybody unless there is a dream to follow, by the way. A players only want to work with visionaries, right? We set the expectations. And setting the expectations correctly when you hire salespeople is a gigantic step. Because if the expectations are set right, people are going to be able to sell. And then we do pitch practice. Okay? So we don't want anybody to leave the onboarding day unless the pitch is perfect. So you can maximize the profit from these people from the very first day. We see a lot of agencies, they do the opposite. They got a 1-hour onboarding day, and then they start paying people a wage from day one, but people come on their first day, they don't even know what to say on the phone. And it takes them a week to learn the pitch, and in that week, you're just wasting money. Make sense? I don't know if you guys do it like that or do it the other way, but we used to do it the other way, and it was just stupid, right? Because we hire nationwide right now, we are hiring 5 to 10 people a week. And if you waste money on all of them, it's a big waste of money, if you guys understand what I mean. So let's talk about the expectations here, okay? So when it comes to the expectation, guys, this is an opportunity that you have to lock them in. Okay, so when you onboard a salesperson, this is what we always ask. We say, hey, Jimmy, can I ask you a question? For you to be the best version of yourself, for you to work the hardest, for you to be dedicated, for you to extra mile, what do you need this company to give you? What do you need this company to provide to you? Give me the list, Jimmy. Give me the list. What do you need? And usually people say, well, I want progression. Okay, done. What else do you need? I want development, no problem. What else do you need? I want lots of money, done, lots of money. What else do you need? If I do well, I want to be invited to trips. Perfect. What else do you need? I want to be invited to networking events. No problem. What else do you need? At some point, people will run out, right? And again, the list goes on. And the way we like to do it is whatever they say, as long as it's reasonable, we write it down. And I think that you guys can do the same thing, right? You guys can do the same thing. And then we say, okay, Jimmy, so as long as we give you all of that, is that all you need to be the #1 version of yourself? Yes, that's all. Are you sure? I'm sure. Are you 100% sure? I'm 100% sure. Is there anything else at all? Nothing else. Okay, perfect. No problem, Jimmy. So we're going to give you everything that you just asked. On the other side, Jimmy, there are something that we expect from you. And I learned this from Team Kennedy. We called it the We Smart principles. All we expect from you, Jimmy, are the following things. If you want to work together, you need to have work ethic, okay? And work ethic is not working longer hours. Work ethic is working when you're supposed to do so. Does that make sense? I remember there was one day where my salespeople in the office, they had a terrible sales day the day before. And do you know what I did? I said this, okay, everybody put your phone on the table. And they put the phone on the table. Then I said, go in settings right now, go in settings. And I want everybody to publicly show your screen time on your phone yesterday. Show me. People started, they started to shake. They're like, oh, fuck, right? And so one person was like 7 hours. And I was like, oh, give him a well done. 7 hours on his phone yesterday. That's incredible. What about you? Oh, 11 hours. And I'm like, that's why we didn't do sales yesterday. We didn't work. We were physically present, but we got so distracted that it's impossible to perform a task at the highest level when you get that distracted. Does that make sense? Am I being okay? More or less. Can you guys understand me? Can you give me a louder yes if you understand me? Do you understand me? Okay, cool. So can I continue with this pace? Is that okay with everyone? Okay, so the first expectation is work ethic, which means working when you're supposed to do so. The second one is student mentality, okay? The way I explain it is student mentality is a 4-steps process. People misunderstand what student mentality is, and they think that taking notes is student mentality. Taking notes means being a bot, by the way. A bot can, right now Elon Musk just released the new bot. Have you guys seen it? That bot can also take notes. Okay, so taking notes is not being a good student. Being a good student is writing notes, learn the notes, do it, and teach it. Write it, learn it, do it, teach it. So we set that expectation. We say that to work with us, we need you to have a positive attitude. We're going to talk about that later on, and I'm going to talk about the importance of resourcefulness later on. We say that to work with us, you need a very high level of respect. And that's non-negotiable, by the way. You need respect towards our culture, you need respect towards our clients, and you need respect towards our coworkers. And then we explain that to work with us, you need time management. You need to come on time every single day. You need to come with a plan. And when we hire people, and that's all we say, usually they say this, is that all? Is that all you guys expect? That's pretty reasonable. It's common sense. Do you guys agree, by the way? It is common sense. That's all. Because if you think about it, if somebody actually works, if somebody is actually a great student, if somebody has a real positive attitude, if somebody is really respectful, if somebody really has a plan, if somebody comes on time every single day of the year, are they going to be a good salesperson? What do you think? They're going to be the best. These are easy things to do, but they're not easy to do every single day. Do you guys agree? I remember Team Kennedy in Monaco said this, and I love that. And I'm teaching that now to everybody that I onboard, that we onboard a community collective. Team Kennedy said, if you come early every single day for 365 days a year, you are already in the top 10%. If you come early every day with a plan, you are already in the top 1%. So to be in the top 1% is not that difficult, is it? Come early every single day with a plan. If you come early every day, and you come with a plan, and you attack that plan as if your life depends on it, you are already in the top 0.1%. So that's what we say. Now, the problem with the WeSmart principles, guys, are this. The new guys that you hire are not going to do this just because you ask them to do it. They are only going to do this if there is, one more time, alignment. They're only going to do it if there is alignment. The way we see it is this. Am I doing it? Am I the impersonification of we smart? Am I the hardest working person in the building? Am I the best student, me personally? Do I have the best attitude? Do I respect everybody that I work with? And do I come with a plan every single day? Yes or no? Because everything starts from you. Then I look at the bottom and I'm like, do my senior people do it? Because new people, you hire them, you tell them that they have to do something, they're not going to do it unless the senior are doing it. And if my senior people are doing it, then I can expect also the new people to do it. Don't forget this when you hire people, especially in sales. It's called the 80-400 principles. People, if you are very lucky, if you're a very lucky man, you need to be very, very privileged, by the way. People copy 80% of what you're doing right, if you're lucky. But they will always copy 400% of what you're doing wrong. Always. So before expecting the new people to be great, and that's what we do with the agencies that we work with and with the owners that we work with in Australia, we get them to ask themselves that question. Is there alignment? Is there alignment across the chain so I can expect the new people to also follow the We Smart principles? Step 2, once you understood the alignment part, the step 2 is you need to teach people the right foundations to do sales. Okay? You need to teach people the right foundations to do sales. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because obviously I know that SalesHAX teaches you everything when it comes to this. You guys always talk about the 5 steps and the impulse factors and the 8 steps and the law of average. The way we see it, for people to at least become good cold callers, okay, they need to know the foundations, and these are the foundations. When it comes to the pitch, they need to know the 5 steps of the pitch, and they need to know what the impulse factors are. They also need to know how to create a good first impression, otherwise they're not going to succeed. They need to know the difference between verbal and non-verbal communication. They need to know how to adapt to task people versus other people. Task people are just people that are very direct, and people are people that just want to have a conversation. We teach them how to adapt to different types of people on a very simplistic level. And they need to know the 3 main objections that they're going to get constantly on the phone. At least they got the ammunition, and at least they are prepared. When it comes to pace, how quickly they move, they need to know the difference between the law of average and the theory of average. You guys talk about the law of average here, right? So I'm not saying anything foreigner. And we teach them the difference. Anything that is not the law of average is a theory. And if it's a theory, it's not always going to work. They need to learn how to segment their day. Because the reason why cold callers have terrible days sometimes is because they just try to call all day long without taking breaks. They need to learn how to segment, how to stop, how to evaluate their numbers, and how to go again. They need to learn how to keep an attitude, which means mastering the 8 steps, which means, creating a plan where you are input focused for the day. Because the worst way to make sales or generate leads is by focusing on sales. If you want to make a lot of sales or you want to generate a lot of leads, you got to focus on the actions. We teach them how to remove the correlation between time and results. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but especially for cold callers, when they get to 4 p.m. or when they get to 5 p.m. in the afternoon and they haven't generated any lead or they haven't done any sales, they tend to get desperate, don't they? They tend to get very desperate. So we teach them that sales is like a sport. And the same way in football, you play until the very end, and you don't expect to always score in the first 45 minutes of the game. In sales, it's exactly the same thing. Sometimes you don't get anything all day long, right? And you're like, oh, today is going to be terrible. I'm not going to get any lead. I'm not going to get any sale. And then the last 4 phone calls that you made that day, you get 4 consecutive leads in a row. And you're like, oh, wow, I just turned around my day like that. So we teach them the correlation between time and results. We teach them how to remove the recovery time between prospects. Because that's a problem that cold callers have. They speak to people on the phone, they get rejected, and then they bring that negativity into the next phone call, and therefore their level of engagement goes down, and they're not going to be able to generate the results that they want. Does that make sense to everybody? And the most important one out of them all, we teach them how to self-analyze. self-analyze. If your goal is to have many salespeople in your organization, I don't know what your goal is, but if you want to get to the point where you have 10, 20, 30, 40 salespeople working for you, you need to make them independent thinkers. And you need to make them rational thinkers. So we teach them and we give them the tools to be able to read their law of average. And at the end of the day, to be able to establish, okay, I've gone wrong here. I went wrong there. My conversion wasn't perfect here. This is what I need to work on tomorrow. That's it. Does that make sense to everybody here? So we teach them the foundations. And then step 3, guys, step 3 for training salespeople, in my opinion, this is the most important one by far. Because let's talk about respect and loyalty for a second. How do you get your salespeople to respect you? How do you get the A players that you employ to look after you? How do you get the A players that you employ to be loyal to you? Because here's the thing. When it comes to B players, you can demand respect and loyalty. Does that make sense? B players and C players, this is how you get respect and loyalty. You just tell them. You say, you need to respect me and you need to be loyal to me. I'm your boss. And a C player is going to nod and say, yes, boss, I will. I will. A B player is going to do exactly the same. He's going to nod and say, yes, boss, I will. I will respect you and I will be loyal. A players don't do that. A players do not give respect and loyalty unconditionally. If you want A players to be respectful, and if you want A players to be loyal towards you, you also need to provide. And you need to provide what I call the CDP. And the CDP stands for culture, development, and progression. So let's dive into those 3. When it comes to culture, guys, the way I see it, it's 3 bullet points. When it comes to culture, number 1, you need to give a shit. It's your business, they're your people. It's your business, they're your people. And what we see, and hopefully that's not you, what we see with a lot of business owners is this. The more resources they accumulate, the more their level of resourcefulness goes down. The richer they get, the less they work. The bigger the company, the more holidays they take. The more employees they have, the more they play golf at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. It's your business, it's your people. I'm going to talk about resourcefulness later on. But if you really want to take business to the next level, honestly, it comes down to one thing. As you accumulate more resources, increase your resourcefulness even further and exploit the resources as much as you possibly can. And if you do that, your business is going to explode. More resources just make people more complacent. Can we agree on that one? It's a natural inclination of the human brain. We get comfortable and we say to ourselves, I worked so hard to get to this point, I deserve to switch off a little bit. I deserve to take time off. But I love what David and Tarek said before. The bigger your business becomes, the less is just your business and the more you're responsible for other people. So you gotta be real to your core. Because if you wanna retain A players, you need to truly give a shit. A players are always watching you. A players are always asking themselves, why should I stick with this guy? Just because you helped them 3 or 4 years ago doesn't mean that they're going to be with you for the rest of your life. If you want to retain A players, you got to pay rent. And rent is due at the end of every single day. You got to be an example consistently. You need to care and give a shit consistently. That's what we learn. If you want to have A players following you, you need to have a scary vision. That's massive. Do you guys know who Patrick Bet-David is? Anybody? He said, if you are working for a company, make sure that the 3 following things are provided, otherwise you should quit that company today. And one of the 3 things that he talks about is the scary vision. He says, if your company is not promoting a vision that is so scary, and a vision that is so big, a vision that has the power to fit every single person in it, you should quit right now. Does that make sense? And I know that you guys are professional, you don't make that mistake. But sometimes in Australia, I've seen people making that mistake. They talk about the company vision, and they say, my goal is to make $1 million. Nobody gives a shit about you. People only care about themselves. Does that make sense? Talents follow visionaries. Talents follow visionaries. A wrong assumption to make is the following. To assume that just because somebody is talented is also a visionary. Not every talented person is a visionary. Your goal is to always be the visionary. The moment that we stop being the visionaries as business owners is the moment that we die. Does that make sense to everybody? And the last one, don't be greedy. To create a great culture, don't be greedy. A mistake that I personally seen, a lot of people get to the point where they're just treating their business like an ATM machine. And they're like, my business now is making money, perfect. Holiday, perfect. Car, perfect. Watch. And it's just your personal ATM machine. They were talking about this before, Tariq and David, one more time. Don't be greedy. If you want to retain A players, yes, you can have a little bit of ATM machine to look after yourself, but you need to reinvest the money back into the business to grow the business even further. Why? Because A players are always watching you. And if they notice that you're just taking the money out and you're not putting the money back in to create a better business, what are the A players going to do, by the way? They're going to leave. They're going to leave. Working with A players is not easy. And that's why many people don't have them. Because working with A players requires you to work much harder. It's a difficult life because they always watch you. Fucking annoying A players, huh? Always watching. The next one is development, CDP. If you want people to perform at the highest level, you need to provide them development. For me, development is very simple. I've always been following the Richard Branson quote. Richard Branson says this: if you want to look after your clients better, if you want to look after your customers better, just look after your employees better. If your employees are happier, they're gonna look after your customers. Does that make sense? It's as simple as that. Everything that we do in our company is the reflection of the people that we employ. Everything that we do in our company is a reflection of the overall level of happiness of the people that we work with. Simple as that. So if you want people to do more sales, look after them and have a genuine mission to change their life. That's what I do. If I hire somebody, I'm like, man, I'm going to teach you how to be a sales monster. Okay, I'm going to turn you into a beast. Trust me, we're going to build character together. You're going to be phenomenal. You're going to make a lot of sales. You're going to make a lot of money. I'm going to turn you into a monster. I'm going to turn you into a beast. That's the mentality. But a lot of people don't want to coach people too much. And I know that's not you, but a lot of business owners are afraid of coaching their people too much. Why are they afraid, by the way? Sorry, who said anything? Fabio. We have Fabio over here, the Italian. Spot on. A lot of people don't want to coach their people too much because they're fearful. And they're like, if I teach you too much, maybe you're going to take my job. Maybe you're going to be a threat to me. If you have that mindset, you're always going to have a small business. You need talented people. You need talented people around you if you want to grow in size. It's as simple as that. People are not going to lose respect for you as long as you remain a visionary, as long as you remain resourceful. So don't be scared. And when it comes to the progression structure, guys, it's extremely important to constantly promote the dream. There needs to be a dream. A players will only work for you and will only work with you if there is a dream that they can chase on a daily basis. Because A players, they do dream. They want a good life like you do. A players are like us. They're like every single business owner in this room. So you need to have a progression structure. There is a dream that they can follow. My main advice, maybe you can't do this, by the way, but something that has worked very well for us, we have created a progression structure that is purely target-based. 100% objective. What we say to people always is this: we don't promote people here at Community Collective. People promote themselves. For every stage of the progression structure, there is a sales target and there is a knowledge target. If you hit those targets, you get promoted. You don't even have to ask. You just come to me and say, Patrick, I'm doing my speech on Wednesday because I've done A and I've done B. Maybe it's not possible to implement this in your business, but this will be the desired result, because once you give control to people for their own progression, they work harder than ever. Does that make sense to everybody? And the last one is entrepreneurship. Again, a lot of A players, they want to run their own business. So our Community Collective, that's what we have done. We also offer the people the opportunity at some stage, when they really prove themselves, to earn some profit shares on whatever campaign it is that they run. And if you have that, you're going to be able to retain people. If you have that, people are going to push. Going back to what Patrick Bet-David says, he says, only work with a company if they do 3 things. Number 1, they need to have a scary vision, like I said before. Number 2, the business owners of that company are constantly reinvesting the money back into the company, and they're constantly trying their best to take that company to the next level. And number 3, there is some sort of path for intrapreneurship. The book that Tariq gave me, Sam Walton, Made in America, one of the number 1 reasons why Sam Walton managed to be so widely successful is because at the beginning of Walmart, every store manager that opened a store had profit shares within the store. So they felt that the store was also theirs. And because they felt that the store was also theirs, how hard did they work? How much did they care? How hard did they push? Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everybody? This is CDP, guys. CDP, don't forget this. CDP is the ultimate sales driver. It's the ultimate sales driver. If you hire the right people in your business and you have alignment and you provide them CDP, if they have culture, development, and progression, they are going to do a lot of sales. I started working with the sales team. This is a story that you're going to like. 2 weeks ago. It took 2 weeks. I stepped into the sales team. They were generating $10,000 a week when I stepped in. I worked with them for 2 weeks. I didn't teach them anything about sales. Not one sales training session. Not even one. I only worked on CDP for 2 weeks. This week, they just hit $29,000 in revenue. It took 2 weeks to 3x the revenue without teaching them any sale. Because what the team was missing, there was no culture. There was no respect for development. They forgot what the progression structure looked like. And I just focused on this. And over the last 3 weeks, it all came back. Don't underestimate the importance of this, okay? But remember this, guys. You cannot expect We Smart unless you provide CDP. I love this one. You cannot expect people to work hard. You cannot expect people to be students. You cannot expect people to have an amazing attitude, to come on time every day, to come with a plan every day, unless you provide them culture, development, and progression. It's conditional to this. Does that make sense to everybody? Do I still have you, or do I have people falling asleep? Is everybody still with me? Is everybody still present? Are you sure? Okay, great. I still have 27 minutes to go, okay? So I'm trying my best here to take it slow. So we have just gone through how to hire in sales. We've just gone through how to retain people and the 3 steps to train people. Onboard correctly, teach them the right foundations, the 4 pillars, and make sure that you provide CDP. Now, one thing that Tariq has asked me to talk about today is, when do you know that somebody has the potential to become a closer? Okay, when do you know? When do you know that you should promote somebody to actually become a closer? And that's the next part that I want to talk about, okay? But before I talk about that, guys, I want to go through something. I want to go through this. When do you promote somebody? When do you fire somebody? And when do you need to fire somebody immediately, right? And I love this topic because it's very simple. It comes down to this matrix right here. I believe that you must have seen this one here before. Raise your hand if you've seen this one here before. Okay, so you haven't. That makes it even better for me, so at least I can teach it. Okay, so what this means is very simple, guys. T plus T minus means talent plus talent minus. So it means people with talent and people with no talent. C plus C minus means people with culture and people with no culture. So a C plus person is somebody that respects the company culture. A C minus person is somebody that doesn't respect the company culture at all. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I love the Germans, eh? The Italians, when I'm like, does that make sense? Everybody's like, yes! Germans are very, yes. I love it. I need to be more like them myself, so I'm learning a lot from you guys. Thanks a lot. So when do you promote, guys? Very simple. You promote somebody when they have talent and they respect the culture. Simple as that. Now, later on, we're going to cover what does talent actually mean and what does respect for the culture actually mean. But when do you promote? When they're very talented and when they are the best supporter of your company culture. That's when you promote people to the next level. When do you upskill people? You upskill people when they respect the culture a lot, but they don't have talent. Let me ask you this. Have you ever hired somebody that is not that good? They're not that talented, but they come to the office before anyone else. They leave after anyone else. They ask you more questions than anyone else. They read more books than anyone else. They make more phone calls than anyone else. They're willing to work on a Saturday. They're willing to work on a Sunday. If you tell them that they could, they would even work at night. They're willing to do anything, but they don't get much results. Have you ever had somebody like that, by the way? These are the people, at least, this is my principle. When I have people like that, I do everything in my power to make them good. Everything. Because to me, respect of the culture comes first. And my mentality is this: if they have the right traits, if they have the right dedication, if they are trying their best, if they have the right attitude, and if they are genuinely pushing it, it is my job and it is my responsibility to make them good. Do you always succeed in making them good, by the way? Not always, but we want to try our best. And if I don't succeed, even if after I try so hard to make them good, they're not good, I fire them, but I fire them in a very good way. And I say, you know what, like, I always give them this analogy. I say, Jimmy, let me ask you one question. If you ask a fish to climb a tree, is the fish ever going to succeed? No. And if you ask a monkey to swim in the ocean, is the monkey ever going to succeed? No. Does that make the fish a loser? No. And does that make the monkey a loser? No. Exactly. Because the fish is supposed to swim in the ocean and the monkey is supposed to climb trees. And right now, Jimmy, that's the way I feel about you. I just feel that right now, you're in the wrong environment. I don't think that this is for you. You're such a dedicated kid. You're trying so hard, but I think that you should try something else. Okay, so I fire them in a very good way. I don't make them feel bad about it. The next guy, when somebody has no talent at all, and they don't respect your culture, what do you do with those people? You fire them. Why do you need those people anyway? They're making you no money, and they don't respect you. But the most dangerous person out of them all is that person right there. That's somebody who has talent, but doesn't respect the culture. And these people are very difficult to fire. Why? Because they make you money. Because they make you money. Who's ever had anyone like this before, by the way? Okay, you know, like they make you money, they make you profit, but you know that when you're not in the office, they talk shit about you. You know that they make the little comments. You know that they undermine you behind the scenes, but because they make you so much money, you're like, when people tell you, you just pretend that you don't see it. No, they're not that bad. And you keep them around a little bit longer than you should have had. Anybody has made that mistake before? These are the most dangerous people in the world. Because the problem with those people is this: since they are talented and since they generate results, they have influence on other people. So when they undermine you and when they disrespect the culture, everybody also listens to them. Does that make sense, guys? They did an experiment. Like, how dangerous can that person be? They did an experiment. Have you ever heard about the bad apple effect experiment? Have you heard about that one before? They pick a group of 5 people and they put one bad person in that group. And do you know what happens within 30 minutes? The quality of their work diminishes by 50% in 30 minutes. That's what happens when you have a person like that in your organization. So the most dangerous person ever, the person that you should have fired yesterday, is the one with a lot of talent but no respect for the culture. I mentioned before that I lost everybody in 2018. The reason why I've lost everybody in 2018 is because I promoted that person to be the sales manager of my organization. What an idiot I was, right? But I had to learn that lesson. And when I promoted that person to be the sales manager of that organization, I lost the power over my organization, and I lost my organization. That people will take everything from you. Are we on the same page? Are we on the same page? Okay. So now that we know when to promote, when to fire, and so on and so forth, we got to ask ourselves the following question. But who are the people that we should promote to become a closer? What type of traits do we need to look for? Because the reality that you guys need to accept is this: not everybody is going to be a closer. I'm going to repeat. Not everybody is going to be a closer. Even though you tell them, not everybody is going to make it. It is what it is. To become a closer, to become a team leader, to become a sales manager, you need to be special. But how do you quantify special? What is special? Luckily for you, I got an acronym, and that's called 3RPE. Write it down, 3RPE. A closer needs to have the following traits. A closer needs to be resourceful. A closer needs to be reliable. A closer needs to be rational. A closer needs to be proactive. And a closer needs to have emotional intelligence. 3RPE. So let's look at those principles. The first one is resourceful, guys. Resourceful is the most important by a country mile. Resourceful is when somebody's internal drive has the power to change the external environment. Okay? That's the most important trait. The most important trait. Because you know salespeople, right? Some salespeople are only good salespeople when the stars in the universe are perfectly aligning, when they have the most amazing leads in the perfect territory and they're speaking to the perfect demographic and the sun is very shiny and the weather is beautiful. They're amazing salespeople. But when the market is a little bit more saturated, when there is competition coming in, when they're calling somebody that says, oh, somebody has already called me yesterday 7 times, then they're not good salespeople anymore. Do you guys know what I'm talking about here? Resourcefulness is the ability to find a way no matter what. You cannot promote anybody to become a closer ever if they have an addiction to resources. If they are only good if the perfect resources are provided. Tony Robbins always says this, is the ultimate power is not resources. Okay, the main problem is not the lack of resources. The main problem is always a lack of resourcefulness. Is everybody with me? The best example is Dubai, is it not? Have you seen the pictures of Dubai 30 years ago? What does it look like? What does it look like? Desert. Have you been in Dubai lately? Anyone been in Dubai lately? Does it still look like a desert? Do you still see camels in the street? Not many. It's a big city now. But they didn't have any natural resource over there. They only had one resource, money. And the second, creativity. They had a lot of resourcefulness. Because many other countries also have money. But doesn't just mean that because you have money, you do beautiful things. If you look at the story of Babylon, back in the days, Babylon was considered the most beautiful and prosperous city in the world. Babylon didn't have a river. Babylon didn't have good soil. Babylon didn't have natural resources, but was the most powerful and beautiful city in the world. There was nothing natural about Babylon. There was nothing provided by the external environment. But because men's creativity and because of men's resourcefulness, Babylon came to life. The people that I promote to become closers, they need to have this trait. This is the most important trait, by the way. And how do you measure resourcefulness? How do you know? 2 ways. How do people behave when things are not going well? I'm not interested to see how people behave when everything is great. Because it's easy to be very courageous and it's easy to be extremely amazing when everything is amazing. Do you guys agree? Like it's easy to be a hardworking person when the company is growing, when we have the events and when we have this and when we have that. But how do you behave in time of adversity? I remember in 2020 when COVID happened, we received a notification and they said, tomorrow we're going to close the state. So I sent a message in the WhatsApp group to everybody working with me at the time. And I said, listen, you don't have to, but tomorrow morning, I'm going to leave Melbourne. If you want, I'll see you in the office at 5 a.m. We're probably going to be away for 9 months. It's going to be very difficult. We're going to need to find clients on the road. We're going to need to improvise a new office that we don't have right now. We're going to need to find a way right now. If you want to come with me, be there. Out of 50 people, only 20 showed up. And I looked at those 20 and I said to myself, this is my business. The other 30 don't count. Because as they're leaving me right now, because things are not going great, they're going to leave me tomorrow. The people that you want to promote are the ones that are doing well when things are not going well. And also, the people that you want to promote are the ones that work even harder as resources increase. Remember what I said before? Because here's the problem with salespeople. At some point, salespeople are going to start making a lot of money. Agree or disagree? And the problem is, as salespeople make more money, they do less. But you can't promote somebody to become a closer if that's how they think. Why? Because a closer is controlling the income stream of your company. And if they do less as they make more money, they're not the right person to be in that position. The people that I want to promote are the people that as they make more money, they become hungrier. As they make more money, they work longer hours. As they make more money, they make more phone calls. As they make more money, they just want more. These are the people that you want to be at that level. Otherwise, they're just not going to serve your purpose. Does that make sense to everybody? Can I move on, by the way? Can I move on, by the way? Okay, cool. Testing how do you say it? Responsiveness. The next one is reliable, okay? Reliable. Again, you cannot promote anybody to a closer position unless they also have this. Reliable means that they are trustworthy and they respect your culture. Okay? Don't promote them if you cannot trust them. And if they don't respect your company culture, you cannot promote them. But how do you know if you can trust somebody, by the way? Here's how we do it. Don't ever assume trust. I see a lot of people, they always say, I trust that person. And my response is, have you tested them? Have they passed the test to be certain that you can actually trust them? Whenever I promote somebody, I always done this test. You might like this. You might want to try it as well. The test goes as follows. When I pay them, do you guys pay monthly or do you pay weekly or every 2 weeks? How do you pay? Everybody monthly? See, we are spoiled in Australia. These guys, they all get paid on a weekly basis in Australia. In Europe, you get paid monthly. You got a provision. Okay? So what I used to do is this. If I want to promote somebody, when I pay them more money than they should have received. And I wait. I wait for them to tell me that I made a mistake. And if they don't, I pay them more money one more time. And I wait. I wait for them to tell me that I made a mistake, and I pay them more than I should have. And if they don't, I pay them less. And if they tell me, then I'm like, you're dead to me. Now you know that you can't trust them. Don't assume trust. Test people. We smart. Anybody that you promote to that position, they need to be an impersonification of the we smart. Do not promote anybody unless they are the living, breathing example of the we smart principles. And anybody that you promote to those positions, you know that they are ready when they start doing things without being told. Does that make sense to everyone? I know that somebody is ready to go to the next level when I'm not coming to the office and they've already started anyway. I know that people are not ready because they do this. They go to the office and they keep looking outside the window. Oh, is Patrick coming? I'm like, you're not ready, man. I know that they're ready if they do things without being told and without being instructed anymore, and they're starting to think independently. At that stage, I'm like, I know that you're ready right now. The next trait, they need to be rational. You cannot promote somebody to become a closer if they're not rational individuals. If they don't hold control over their emotions, they're going to fuck it up anyway. I'm sorry to tell you. How do you measure this? Very simple. How do they react to feedback? Because the people that you want to promote to a closer stage are the people that you can be very direct with. Does that make sense? You know, sometimes you can't be direct with people as much as you would like because you need to care too much about protecting their emotions. And even though you would like to tell them something straight, you don't, because you say to yourself, but if I'm too straight with this individual, they're going to be too emotional about it. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? That's not good for business. It just takes too long. If you constantly have to worry about somebody's emotional response, they're probably not the right person to become a closer or a team leader or a sales manager. Because with those people, you want to have the ability just to be direct. I ask all the guys that I work with to be very direct with me, don't I? If you have a problem, just fucking say it. And if I have a problem, I do the same. But if I have to go to Kane or Braden or Fabio and be like, oh my God, I don't want to hurt his feelings. How am I going to tell him this? I'm just going to waste hours. We got better things to do. Does that make sense? Yes? Also, I always check the behavior. How do they behave when they're being beaten? You know, I love to see that. I love to see that, especially when you hire a new person and the new person is beating the senior person that has been around for a while. If the senior person is reacting too emotionally, I know that they're probably not ready. And also the way I measure it is this. Are you number-driven or are you emotions-driven? Because a lot of salespeople, when you ask them, hey, what do you think is your problem right now? Like, why do you think that you're not doing the sales that you should have done last week? What do you think happens last week? When they respond like this and they say, I think, I stop them right there all the time. And I'm like, see, that's where you're going wrong. You think. You shouldn't think. You should know. Makes sense? I know that people are ready when I ask them, hey, where do you think that you went wrong last week? And they respond like this. Thank you for asking, Patrick. Look, these are my stats from last week. These are the amount of calls that I made. These are the amount of presentations. These are the amount of closes. This is the amount of leads that I got. What I noticed, my conversion from presentations to closes is not ideal. I'm actually trading 20% under where I should be. So based on the numbers here, I think that I should work on A, B, and C. What do you think, Patrick? And I'm like, perfect. I 100% agree with you. Maybe work on A. Does that make sense? They need to be self-analytical. If people are like, I think, they're always wrong. Are they not? Yes? Okay. I hope you guys agree with me. You're looking at me with an intimidating face. Okay, cool. Moving on. They need to be proactive, okay? They need to be proactive. What does proactive mean? They need to have the ability to fix problems before they even exist. Especially if the closers that you promote are also running a team of cold callers. Okay, this especially applies in that situation. How do I measure this? Very simple. Can they keep momentum? Can they keep momentum? Meaning, when they are doing well in sales, do they have the ability to continue to do well? Or are they the types of people that do this? They do well and then they do bad. And then they do well, and then they do terrible. And then they do well, and then they are terrible again. Have you ever had salespeople like that, by the way? That they're like a roller coaster, and you're like, what's going on here? Like every week is a different adventure. Why? Because these people are not proactive. And when they do well, what do? They get complacent and they break their own rules. The rules that got them there to be so good, they start being broken. And because they break their rules, they lose momentum. Does that make sense to everybody? And the last one is emotional intelligence, guys, okay? To be a closer, you need to have a certain level of emotional intelligence. You cannot escape this. What is emotional intelligence is the ability to understand people and the ability to relate to them. How do I measure this? First, when they sell, do they use question-based selling or do they just talk at people? Because amazing closers, they use question-based selling, and I'm sure that you guys agree with me. And the last one is, do they see changes in behavioral patterns? I don't want to dwell on that too much, but what I mean with that is this. Are they observant? Do they understand people? Do they have the ability to see that somebody in their team is not okay? Do you know what I'm talking about? You know, sometimes when you can clearly see that one of your sales guys or one of your employees is not okay, like that guy is not okay today, he's not going to do any sales. If my closer cannot see that, that's a problem. That's a problem. So my blueprint, guys, is this. In summary, to promote people to be a closer, they need to be resourceful and they need to be reliable. Do not promote people if they don't have those two. And what it means is this. They need to have a lot of desire to be successful and they need to be somebody that you can trust. Okay? Unfortunately, those two are very difficult to teach. I'm not going to lie. And that's why not everybody can be a closer, because those two are extremely complicated to teach. Okay? And don't promote anybody if they're missing those. When it comes to rationality, when it comes to be proactive, and when it comes to emotional intelligence, you can teach those, but it takes a lot of time. You can teach those. But not always, right? If somebody doesn't have any sort of understanding about human beings. They're very difficult to teach, but you can teach those. Now, you can promote people to closers even if they're not master at those three. You still can, but at least they need to be average at those. Then you can promote them, and while you work with them, you just develop them more and more and more. Are we on the same page with that one? Okay? And then the last point that I wanted to cover for today, guys, is, again, not everybody is going to be a closer. Not everybody is going to have the potential to become a team leader. It is what it is. Your job, our job, is to keep promoting the dream. Our job is to keep developing. Our job is to keep working with people. And if they're not going to make it, if they can't achieve their dream, maybe they can be very valuable somewhere else. It happens. Like, I have a lot of people right now that I work with, and I promoted the dream, and now they work in other departments of Community Collective, and they no longer follow that dream. Or maybe they left. They don't work with us anymore, but they opened another business, and I invested in their business, and we work together in that way. But just accept it. Not everybody is meant to be one.